magazines always try to sell me things, from bicycles to shiny rings. And they say,
oh, hey kids, and welcome back to Super Kids Church. We hope you've had a fantastic week. Welcome back to the bike shop as we are talking about Upcycle this whole month, about our bikes and things that we can be content about, right? And we've been talking about contentment all month long and having fun with our bikes. I don't know if it's been warm enough for you, but have you gone out and ridden your bike since we started talking about bikes? Might be something fun to do. Now, when you ride your bike, though, do you ride forwards or backwards? Has anybody ever tried to go backwards? It's not really the way we're supposed to do it, now is it? Let's see. When we're riding our bikes, which way do we focus our attention? Do we focus our attention to the left, the right, and the back? No, of course not. We focus forward on where we're going. Now, do we still need to peek backwards if we're going to change lanes or something? Yeah. Do we need to look to the left or the right because, we're going to turn? Of course, but that's always focusing on what is in front of us, right? Not what's behind us, but what's in front of us. Now, what's in front of us this month is a very special holiday, and that is Thanksgiving. Oh, it's so exciting. Who has some special plans for Thanksgiving? I hope you do. I know we're going to be with our whole family, and it's going to be so much fun, so much food. Oh, and so many things to be super thankful for, right? And part of contentment is actually being thankful for the things we have, right? So thankfulness kind of fits in right there with us with Thanksgiving. But this month we're studying contentment, and we've been defining contentment as learning to be okay with what you have. Now, all month long, we've been studying being content, being okay with the things that we have, understanding that God gave us those things, and they're a blessing, right? And being grateful and thankful for those things, and being okay that maybe an old helmet, but it's okay to have an old helmet because it still works and protects your noggin, doesn't it? All right, but all month long, we've also been tying this with a memory verse, right? So there's 2 weeks left to memorize, this week and next week, because it's week 3 of November already. And we're going to memorize our memory verse. And if you memorize it, don't forget to send it to Miss Lips. She can write it down for Life Box for the Kids Store when you return, all right? You don't want to miss out on that. But let's go over our memory verse this week and see what it says about contentment. And it reads, "Then he said to them, 'Watch out, be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in abundance of possessions.'" Luke 12:15. You see, life, when we're so worried about what we have, whether it's the coolest or the best thing that we have, whether or not we're there used to be a saying called keeping up with the Joneses, whether we have what is absolutely best in the brand new, spanking new iPad or something like that. And when we live our lives and measure our lives by what we physically have, we miss the point. That's what Paul is saying here. Luke is saying here, sorry. Well, Luke is saying here, he is saying to be on guard against greed. Don't be so greedy for what we physically have. Understand that possessions are only here on this earth. We don't take them with us afterwards. So we need to be on our guard. Now, that doesn't mean we shouldn't have things, right? I mean, we still have things we need, like a house and a roof over our head, and maybe some food. Those are things we need, right? A backpack or some school supplies for school. Those are things we need. It's okay to have things we need, and it's okay. Sometimes God does give us the things we want, but we need to be understanding that everything we have is a blessing from God, and we need to be content and okay with what we have. Now, every week we do a pause and slip moment, and our pause and slip moment is going to be called rear view. Remember we talked about, do you ride a bike backwards? No, you don't. But we're going to have a fun game with looking behind us and see how that ties into our Bible story today. Are you guys ready? All right, so we're going to do what's called rear view. What you're going to do is when you pause Miss Liv, you're going to go make an obstacle course in your room, or maybe outside if it's warm enough, okay? And you're going to make a little obstacle course, and then you're going to go find a mirror in the house. Now, don't forget, ask a parent permission before you get your mirror, because mirrors can break, and we don't want to break a mirror because then it'll shatter into pieces and we can get hurt. We always need to do protection and make sure our parent is okay with us using it, okay? So go ask a parent for a mirror. And what you're going to do is you're going to try to do your obstacle course in reverse. You're going to use your mirror and look forward, but look at the mirror which is showing you behind you, and see if you can do the obstacle course in reverse. And see how that goes. And once you've tried your obstacle course in reverse, and maybe you timed it to see if you can do it faster than a sibling, try to do it forwards and see which way is easier. All right? So we're going to pause this live. Now, if you don't have time to do this right now, that's okay. I'll remind you of this thing at the end of Kids Church today. All right? But if you have some time, we're going to pause this live, and you go have fun with your rear view obstacle course. You ready to pause this live? In 3, 2, 1, pause this live. We hope you had fun going in reverse for your obstacle course today. Was it easier or harder, forward or backwards? I mean, that's for you to decide. Did you also notice maybe you were looking in the mirror and left is actually right and right is actually left? It's kind of hard looking in reverse to do something now, right? And that's going to tie into our Bible story today about looking in reverse and what kind of effects that has on us. All right, so Miss Liv's going to get her Bible. You better get yours, and I'll see you on the other side. Miss Liv has her Bible, and because it is Thanksgiving week, we thought we'd bring back the thumbs up, thumbs down from Thanksgiving last year. Remember when we studied gratitude? All right, and we're going to be doing our thumbs up, thumbs down for our wonderful story today as we discover what our game was really about. So today we're going to open up to Exodus 16. So it's in the So today we're going to open up to Exodus 16, which is in the Old Testament. So Old Testament. All right. And we're going to be talking about the Israelites. Now, we already understand that the Israelites are God's chosen people, right? They're the people that God specifically chose for a specific purpose to glorify Him, right? And to bless the world, right? I mean, we know that Jesus is a descendant of the Israelites. So we know that God used the Israelites for a very, very special purpose. But it took many years to reach Jesus after He had established the Israelites. And there were a lot of people who were the Israelites. But we're going to talk about a time where they had just escaped Egypt. Now, we can remember all the way back, the Israelites were given their own land, and then there was a famine, and then they went to Egypt, where the brothers reunited with Joseph, right? And they received food, and they moved to Egypt. Well, in Egypt, the pharaohs, as you know, they kept going. They eventually enslaved the Israelites, and they were in slavery for many years. And they were complaining about it and so upset over it and crying out to God, saying, God, where are you? Why haven't you saved us? Well, then God showed up, and God helped them escape Egypt. He sent the 10 plagues, and then they eventually escaped, and they got to the Red Sea, and then Pharaoh sent his men after them. But then God parted the Red Sea, and they went through the Red Sea to the other side. Now, this should be the end of the story with a thumbs up, right? But unfortunately, the Israelites never could seem to understand to pay attention to what God did and remember it well. And they wound up getting in trouble and had some thumbs down situations. So they had thumbs up and thumbs down situations after crossing the Red Sea. And they disobeyed God, and they were forced to wander the desert for 40 years. Now, our story is going to begin here, where they're in the desert. They just finished the Red Sea, which is good, right? And they were super excited about fleeing Egypt. Now, it's crazy. Like, as soon as we finish fleeing Egypt and we get across the Red Sea and we get to the other side, you know what? The Israelites found something to complain about. How easy is it for us to complain? Do some of you complain a lot? All right, the Israelites always seem to find something to complain about. In fact, let's see what they complained about in our story today. We're going to go to Exodus 16:3, and it reads, The Israelites said to them, If only we had died by the Lord's hand in Egypt. There we sat around pots of meat and ate all the food we wanted. But you have brought us out into this desert to starve this entire assembly to death. Oh my goodness, they were complainers. God had just saved them through the Red Sea, and a few days later their bellies were hungry and they were already going, yo, Moses, Aaron, God should have just left us in Egypt. At least we had food there. We were miserable, but at least we had food. And they're already starting to complain. Well, here's the cool thing about God. God is a patient God, and God was patient with the Israelites. Let's see what God did in the next verse. Then the Lord said to Moses, I will rain down bread from heaven for you. The people are to go out each day and gather enough for that day. In this way I will test them and see whether they will follow my instructions. So you see, God saw that they were complaining, they were hungry, and he filled a need, right? He gave. He was patient, and he said, okay, I see you're hungry. I'm going to give you bread every day. Enough bread for the whole day. And so Moses and Aaron get so excited about this. They gather all the people together to share what God had just spoken. And God even appeared in a cloud in order to share that this was from God. And then God shared even more. Let's go to verse 12 and see what God also shared. I have heard the grumblings of the Israelites. Tell them, at twilight you will eat meat, and in the morning you will be filled with bread. Then you will know that I am the Lord your God. So not only did God give them bread, but due to their grumblings, he also gave them meat at night. And the Bible tells us that the morning dew in the morning would go away and it would turn into their bread for the day. And then at night there would be quail that would just come and stay in the camp with them. Tons and tons of quail that they could eat. And they ate plenty. They ate bread, they ate meat, and they had specific instructions though. For the bread, which was like a sweet bread, so they called it manna, for the bread, they were only to collect enough for one day, except for on the last day of the week, they were to collect for 2 days so they could have 1 day of rest. And God specifically gave these instructions because he wanted them to trust him, to understand that God had brought them out of Egypt and he was going to take care of them. Well, unfortunately, the Israelites, did a thumbs down again, and they didn't listen. Some of the Israelites collected more than what they needed for 1 day, and when they woke up the next morning to eat their bread, they found maggots in it. Ugh! The bread was already bad by the next morning because God had already put brand new manna outside with the morning dew. There was no need to keep that bread. And the Israelites kind of went down on the job and had a thumbs down here until they listened to God. And they actually did the right thing, and God continued to provide for them. Well, after they lived in this one area for a little time, then they moved to the next place they were going. Now in this next place, they still had manna and quail from God, right? Manna and quail, thumbs up. But they did not have any fresh water here. They were by a river or by the lake last time, but now there was no water. So instead of going, well, God helped us. So let's remember what God helped us and know that he'll help us again. They thumbs down God again. Instead of remembering what God had just done for them, they started to remember Egypt again. And they went and they complained again to Moses and Aaron. Let's see what they said in Exodus 17:3. But the people were thirsty for water there, and they grumbled against Moses. They said, why did you bring us up out of Egypt to make us and our children and livestock die of thirst? Oh my goodness. So, once again, the Israelites are remembering Egypt. Now, do you guys remember what happened to them in Egypt? They were enslaved. They weren't allowed to do what they wanted to do. They had to work really hard, and they were miserable there. And now they're out, and they're safe, and God's been providing for them, and they're complaining again because they're thirsty. And you know what, God is so patient again. And Moses, though, had to deal with all these thumbs down. And wow! And so he called to God for help. He did the right thing. not the wrong thing, and went to God for help instead of, reminiscing about Egypt. So he asked God for help, and this is what God said in verses 5 and 6. The Lord answered Moses, "Go out in front of the people, take with you some of the elders of Israel, and take in your hand the staff with which you struck the Nile, and go. I will stand there before you by the rock at Horeb. Strike the rock, and water will come out of it for the people to drink." So Moses did this in the sight of the elders of Israel. You see, God once again showed up and gave a thumbs up and something to rejoice. Woohoo! And even with all of the grumblings of the Israelites, God still provided for their needs. And he gave a thumb up, right? Even though the Israelites kept thumbing him down, like, "How dare you take us from Egypt, where we ate and we drank?" God still said, "I am your provider." And over again, God provided for the Israelites. And every time that God had a provision and something went wrong, they were tempted to go back to Egypt, because they kept forgetting what God was doing. And they continued to grumble, because they didn't quite understand the point of today, which is to don't miss out on what you have now. You see, the Israelites, they were not content with their situation pretty much ever, really. Because God provided for them when there was a famine, and then unfortunately they got enslaved, and all they did was complain to God and say, "Free us, free us, free us." So then God comes and frees them, and then they complain because they don't have food. And then God comes and gives them food, and they complain that they don't have water. And then God comes and gives them water, and it's flipping back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and they literally had no gratitude, and they had no contentment with what they had. The Israelites kept losing focus on what mattered, and that's what they have now, and the blessings that God had given them right now. They kept thinking about what it was like to be back in Egypt and how they had food and they had water and they had a roof over their head that they failed to see every time God provided since then. They chose to focus on what they used to have versus on what God was providing for them right now. Remember we talked about our thing there where you had the mirror and you were trying to go backwards to the obstacle course? When we are constantly focused on what we used to have or the way things used to be or how we want things to be the way they were, we lose focus of what God is doing now. And I'm not saying this is an easy thing to do. Miss Liv struggles with this too, because there's a lot of stuff that's happened in Miss Liv's family, and sometimes it's so easy to go back and be like, "Oh, I just wish it was the way it was before. It wouldn't be as hard." But then I stop and I look at what's happening around me and the good things that are coming out of it, and I can recognize what God is doing now. Understanding those other times that were bad, God has been preparing for right now. And God's going to do something major and mighty with what's happening right now. I just need to not focus on what it was and focus forward on what is coming. So instead of living my life in rear view, I need to be focusing on what's coming ahead. And understand and trust that God is going to take care of me. Now, sometimes we look at the Israelites and we're like, how could they do this? Like, how could they not see dew, morning dew, turn into bread and forget what God had done? But sometimes we struggle with this too, right? How easy is it for us to complain when we don't have an immediate need? Maybe we really want a brownie, but we're not thanking God for the meal we just had. Maybe we really wanted the new iPad and we're not thanking God for the tablet we just got for her birthday. That wasn't quite an iPad. Sometimes it's so easy to complain. It's so easy to complain and choose to focus on what is bad and woe is me, instead of shifting our focus from complaining to what is God doing now? Instead of saying, "Oh, I can't believe I do have this. When can I get this?" It should be, what do I have right now that God has blessed me with? What's something I can rejoice that God has done right now? And choose to factor our thoughts and not miss out on the blessings God's giving us right now. You may be going through a really, really tough time. But if we only focus on that tough time, we're going to miss those little blessings that are happening right now. I told you that my family's been going through a lot, but one that's really bad, but one good thing is we've been able to spend a lot more time with our family right now. In order to handle the bad that's going on, I've been able to see my family more than I ever have since I moved here. And when we focus on what is God doing now, we can look forward and have joy and hope for what is coming instead of focusing on what's behind us and being sad about it. We can choose joy on what is to come instead of what's behind us. Which brings us to what you can do this week. Well, this week, as we continue to focus on what God is doing right now, don't forget that you can go back and do our rear view item this week and maybe set up a bigger obstacle course. And remember, you're going to set up an obstacle course and use a mirror after asking a parent and go backwards through your obstacle course and see how hard it is compared to going forwards, right? And maybe make a game out of it and see if you can get through it faster than a sibling or something like that. You can also go to lifechaponline.com/kids where you can download our Now and Later puzzle. And our Now and Later puzzle is going to be set up kind of like a word game, okay? It's going to have to do with the Bible story that we just told. And you're going to fill in all of the answers. And then there are certain letters that are going to be circled. And you're going to have to see what the secret code message is with those circled letters and see if you can figure out something that our Bible story is trying to tell us this week. And this week is Thanksgiving. Part of contentment is giving thanks for what we already have. And as we're getting ready for Thanksgiving, maybe you should take some time at your dinner table every night and choose one thing to give thanks for. Don't let it just be one day. Don't let it just be Thursday for Thanksgiving. Let's give thanks at the table every single day for the things that we can be content about. Thankful for the things that we have this week as we celebrate Thanksgiving with our families and eat some yummy turkey and ham and wind up super tired from eating too much. Let's give thanks for everything we can this week as well as we celebrate Thanksgiving. You can also go to lifechaponline.com/kids where you can download more downloadable activities. You can go to the ParentQ website for more craft type items. You can see our 252 video for the week for our Bible story in a new way. And you can also get our YouTube playlist for some worship. All right? And you can check it all out at lifechaponline.com/kids. And then join us next week, right after Thanksgiving, as we finish up Upcycle and see what the last thing is for the month before we head into something new. All right? So Ms. Love's going to pray, and she can't wait to see you next week. Are you guys ready? All right. Dear Jesus, I thank you. I thank you for who you are. I thank you for sending your son to die on the cross for our sins. I thank you that we are able to get together and to talk about you right here in our own house together with the kids online, Lord. I pray a special blessing over each and every family watching this today, that you would help them to stay focused on what is forward instead of back this week, that you would be able to give them an extra dose of contentment and gratitude this week as they focus on the things that you're doing now and get excited for the things you're going to do in their lives, Lord. I pray a special blessing over each and every kid and family watching this. May they have a wonderful and safe Thanksgiving and bring them back safely next week. We thank you, Jesus. Amen. It's been so wonderful having you with you. I am so thankful to have you as well. And I can't wait till next week to see you then. Bye!
Everything I've got is all I need.